number of university presidents to come and represent the old world of education on stage today. And they all said no. Sebastian, why do you think that is?
Oh my God, I think it's an interesting time for higher education to really understand where we're going. What I would love to see is much more experimentation, people just diving in and trying out new things. There's a kind of a language in the state of California that the old model is the only model out, and it's a great model. I have nothing against face-to-face education. But I think given that we're in the 21st century, we have new technologies, it's really trying to try something new.
And I think that's the great challenge. I serve on the UC Board of Regents, the CSU, the California State University's System Board of Trustees. And the problem for us is our success. And as a consequence, our unwillingness to dramatically change our behavior. So we've been debating the last number of years about this new crisis, and that's the lack of state support for higher education. And that's been substantive. Crisis is overused word, but nonetheless, I think apt here because we've cut, for example, in the last 18 months, the UC budget and the CSU budget by over $2 billion. And as a consequence, everyone knows this, the last number of years, in fact, the last 6 years, we've doubled tuition at the UC and CSU's, more than tripled it since 2001. The concern now of quality, because we're not paying our faculty what other private universities and some other public universities are paying, becomes problematic. And so all of these things are now creating an opportunity to have a different conversation, a conversation that Sebastian has been on the forefront of, and other quote-unquote MOOCs, this world of MOOCs, Coursera and edX and others. And this idea of online education is taking shape and now taking a lot of traction in the debate. I think is a long overdue and formidable one.
Yeah, and you told me that your own staff advised you not to get on stage with Sebastian. So.
Well, like I said, when things are going well, you want to get along. And as a region, there's a lot of mixed reviews on higher ed. A lot of folks are threatened by it. The faculty is very concerned about it. We've had an institution that every year outperforms other institutions around the world. So people are saying, why screw up a good thing? We're still one of the top 10 universities, Berkeley, one of the top 10 universities, UCLA, always in the top 10 or 12, other UCs, 7 of the top 50 highest performing universities in the world are UCs. Our CSU is really the workhorse of American education. Why screw up a good thing? And so from my perspective, that question is amplified back at the office because they're saying, well, why associate yourself with Sebastian? He wants to disrupt it. Sebastian has a radical new view of higher education, and if it doesn't work out, the fact that you're sitting up here on stage may not work out for you so well.
So Sebastian, do you think, are you a threat, do you think, to higher ed, or do you think you're complementing it and doing and offering something that can run in parallel with the system as we know?
I don't see myself as a threat to the existing education system. It's been discussed this way because it's the first reaction that people have in the higher ed system to understand what's going to happen to me if we find a new way of educating. But we leave so many students behind. In the state of California alone, there's about 470,000 students who are willing to enroll and pay full tuition. But if you look a little broader, China has 20 million freshmen this year. And then there's a huge gap in the professional development side of people building software engineers. There's no single startup company here who would love to hire more software engineers. It's so extreme that companies come to us and say, give us write a check and say, please, put out a curriculum that gets people trained to understand what the industry needs. There's a huge vacuum. So I think what I'm focusing on is this opportunity that's based way outside existing higher education. We can really provide lifelong education, international education, education to people who are economically disadvantaged, and so on.
Why do you think it's a mistake that we graduate more bachelors in psychology than engineering?
So it turns out we do graduate more bachelors in psychology than engineering, and I want to see a single person in this room saying, yes, I want to hire more psychologists and software engineers. I have nothing against psychology, and it's really important to have a diverse set of skills in a nation. But there's a huge shortage, in my opinion, of great software engineers, big data scientists, cybersecurity scientists. And those technical fields are really what drives forward Silicon Valley and the nation as a whole. When I talk to companies like partner companies like Google, AT&T, very few of them ever come to me and say we need more psychologists or English majors. They all come to me and say, look, give us technical talent so we can build better products and get over markets.
The backdrop of this is self-evident to everybody. Look, you've got a system of higher education that's not sustainable. Period, exclamation point from my perspective. We've talked so much in the last year or two about the debt crisis. That's self-evident to everybody in this room. The higher costs, self-evident to everybody. The issues of access, the inability to access higher education. But for me, it becomes a more fundamental question. What kind of world are we living in? What are the trend lines that define this world? Are we conveying enough talent to meet the needs of jobs that exist today, let alone the jobs that will exist tomorrow? As Sebastian, he loves to point out this stat, and it's a wonderful stat. The Labor Department came out suggesting that 65% of grade school kids are going to have a job that hasn't even been invented yet. Are we, as a system of higher learning, particularly California, that's been on the vanguard, we've been the leader, are we prepared to advance the workforce development, the human capital, for that workforce, again, of today, let alone the future? That skills gap is widening in real time. We can't afford to fail more efficiently. This is code red, and we have to do something, I think, dramatic, and if it's disruptive, it's worth, I think, leaning in and making the case that there's alternative pedagogy of learning, and that the opportunity to use technology and use these tools of technology that Sebastian and his colleagues have advanced, I think can be extraordinarily advantageous and start plugging those gaps.
So, do either of you think it's okay for online education to divorce itself from academia entirely, become a job training